This is the Dreyer Drive podcast, a podcast all about siblings and the people, places, and pop culture that raised us. And today we are talking about a big one. We are talking about the two siblings that brought this world Disney. Walt and Roy Disney. But before we jump into that, Jacqueline and I will share stories about how we are both terrible with measurements and directions. Jacqueline will share a story about the time that she kissed a Disneyland worker on the mouth, and I will share a story about my time years ago backpacking through Honduras. And then, of course, we'll wrap up this episode the same way we wrap up every single episode here on the Dreyer Drive podcast, with an unhinged text message from a family member. And this week, that family member is me. I share a text message on our sibling thread about a special guest that made an appearance at my daughter's art class 2 weeks ago. Let's do this.
What's on your shirt?
Oh, this is amazing. Okay. So
jump right in.
Okinawa has their own basketball team. There's a thing out here called the B League. It's the Japanese basketball league. And Okinawa has like the strongest or second strongest team every year. And they're called the Ryukyu Golden Kings. The Golden Kings, their mascot is not a golden king. It's this guy named Gordy. And the team's sponsored by Orion Beer. So this is the beer company. It says Orion Beer.
Is that Gordy?
Gordy, here, hold on. Gordy is just this beer-loving bear.
Llama? Oh, he's a bear.
He's a llama bear. And the best part is like, Japan doesn't have the protection laws like they have in the United States or Canada, where like you can't show somebody opening and drinking a beer on TV. Mm-hmm. You can definitely show it in Japan. Like they show it, and it's just scene after scene of people guzzling beer. And yeah, Gordy, you saw it. Like you just saw Gordy, the mascot, is just walking around with a pitcher of beer in his hand. And this is a character that is beloved by children all over Okinawa. He goes and visits all of the schools to like get support for the Okinawa, the Ryukyu Golden Kings from school to school. I haven't seen him in the school, but I assume he just shows up with a pitcher of beer, cheersing all of the kids with their apple juice.
So not like when we had our assemblies and they're like, when you grow up, someone's going to offer you meth and you better say no. Anyway, here's a bag of it. Goodbye.
And when this presentation's complete, I would like you to come up here and pet this mountain lion.
Shout out to Southwood Park. Thank you for those experiences.
And go back and listen to that episode. Yeah, go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already heard that one.
Well, I did not know about Gordy, but now he's going to become my whole personality. It's going to be the thing that I obsess over for a little while, and
we'll put a picture of Gordy. Yeah, we'll put a picture of Gordy in the show notes. But yeah, he's just this big red, blue, and white kind of basketball patterned llama bear with a beer in his hand.
Are you watching the finals?
It's over. We just lost in the finals. So were...
No, not your final.
Oh, the NBA finals? I thought you were really into B League. I was like, yeah, it just ended last week. We lost. We were leading the whole game of the final game. Best of 3 series. We were leading the whole game until the final 2 minutes, and we lost on a couple of back-to-back threes. Anyway, NBA finals. You mean the real finals?
How would I know that you're in the middle of Okinawa finals right now?
I thought you were that invested in my life. You're like, let me just make sure.
You told me I wasn't joking. Like when you said Gordy, I was over here just like researching everything I could about him all of a sudden. It's like, is it the middle finals right now? Oh my gosh. No, the NBA finals, the real finals that everybody else in the world is watching.
So definitely watching. I don't talk about it on the podcast, but I'm a massive Toronto Raptors fan. I still watch. This year's been different because we had Naya through basketball season as a less than 1 year old, as a baby. Weird way to say a less than 1 year old. She was just a less than 1 year old. So I didn't watch that many games this year, but I check all the highlights and box scores or whatever. But Pascal Siakam on the Indiana Pacers, who was just the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Big fan of him and his game. So yes, I'm watching. And then on OKC, there's a guy, SGA, who like Shy, he's a Canadian kid. And so like, I'm okay, whatever team wins. But
I want the Pacers. So, but I also, I'm just an underdog person. Like I just will naturally choose whichever one is the underdog. And so I honestly don't even care that much about the Pacers, but for a few weeks, I will passionately be a Pacers fan until next season, which I split my time between the Raptors and the Jazz. It depends on who's better that season. And that's the team that I will most likely support.
I also just so right now, like I think I want the Pacers maybe to win, just because of course Pascal Siakam, but I also really like Tyrese Halliburton. Like I don't know if you watch any of like Hallie's, like just the fact that he's this like meme player who just is actually playing incredible. Like he's just an internet meme. A lot of people are like kind of making fun of him, and he has hit a buzzer beater or close to a buzzer beater in every finals series until this point, and he just did it in the last game. So like, I just like that kind of story, but not invested. So I don't really care. But I'd love to see Pascal get another ring and like establish his Hall of Fame position.
I know. I mean, it's no Gordy, but we can all,
it's just Gordy over here. Just
we can all find someone to root for.
I also just really love that his name is Gordy.
Gordy's great. Kind of a swing for a Japanese team.
Yeah, like it's not mapped to Japanese pronunciation at all. And just Gordy.
Just like, I feel like I knew so many Gordys going up, strangely enough. Like, is Gordon a common Canadian name? Why did I know so many Gords and Gordys?
Yeah, Gords and Gordys. There were a few around the
who also drank a lot of beer.
One of them also owned a pub. But yeah, like I think when you guys come out here and visit us in Okinawa, which I'm sure you will do at some point in time, you'll see like the baby in car stickers are just Gordy. They're always Gordy.
Okay, next whatever holiday you buy me a gift for, which there are many, I would like a Gordy shirt, please.
I'll try to find one without beer. I don't know how your neighbors are.
Either way, it's fine.
All right. But
knowing Utah, people here would just assume it was a very large soda, so we're fine.
What are they called? The gas station Bubbas?
The Bubbas, yeah, Bubba keg.
Yeah. So they'll just assume it's a Bubba keg of some type of orange Fanta.
When I first moved to Utah, obviously we didn't grow up with like ounces, right? Deciding drinks in ounces, you were just like a small, medium, and large. And here it's very specific. Like the ounces are very specific. Like you say what ounce you want when you go to a store, or when you go to one of these soda shops, you say how many ounces you want. So I remember the first time I moved down here and I was like, I'm going to go to the gas station. I'm going to get myself a drink. And I had no idea like how much an ounce was. And so when they asked me how many ounces, to me, 64 seemed like the right amount of ounces. So I said a 64 ounce. And a 64 ounce drink is literally the size. I mean, it's bigger than my head. You can't even fit it in like a cup holder in a car. And they just hand me like this full jug of Diet Coke or whatever I ordered. And I was like, I fear this might be too much. I think 64 was not the right answer for this.
It was one of those like giant water cooler bottles. So they put it into your car and it tilted to the side like the Flintstones intro. Remember? Like they went through a drive-thru and they gave a mistake and the whole thing just leans to the side. I don't know where that reference came from.
Yeah, I'm impressed. That was an impressive reference, honestly. But it's like, who is drinking 64 ounces of soda at any given time? That's insane.
You will never see me more, well, two situations. You will never see me more confused than when a recipe calls for something in ounces. It'll be like, grab 3 ounces of milk. And I'm like, boo.
Like, how much
beautiful
is an
mind.
ounce?
I'm like a beautiful mind, all the brackets and mathematical equations. The other time you'll see me super confused is when GPS all of a sudden is like, head northwest. I'm like, I'm lost. No. You have seen how many times I have just turned. Telling me to head northwest is doing 0 favors right now.
I only use landmarks for directions. So unless you can tell me which McDonald's it's near, I'm not going to get there.
I want the program that uses Google Maps, because I find that Google is like a better overall maps system, but I need it to talk to Apple, and then Apple gives the directions the way that Apple gives it. Because Apple Maps, this is getting, we're into the niche again. We didn't take us long to find the niche. Gordy and Apple versus Google Maps. But Apple always like, go 2 sets of lights and then make a right, or go past this set of lights, then make a left. I'm like, that's how directions should be given. Google's like, goes 13 degrees longitude northwest. I'm like, You might as well just told me to go 16 ounces because I don't know.
Okay,
go
so
16 ounces 16 ounces.
Like, I hear 16. I feel like you're telling me 64. I'm not sure how much any of this is.
Yeah, I know nothing.
I obviously, we talked about how I'm very bad at math. Like my brain just shuts down when it comes to math. And so one of the best things I did was marry someone who is good at math. And if I have a math question, I just yell at him and he usually has the answer, including when I'm cooking or baking. And it's something so simple. I'm like trying to double a recipe. I'm like, Justin, what's 2 half cups? He's like, seriously, Jacqueline. I'm like, I don't have the brain capacity to think about this. So you just need to tell me now.
What are 2 cups? I need 2 twos. 2 twos.
Or I just count the half cup that many times.
Hey, no shame in the game. No shame in the game. Saying that because I do the same thing.
Just like, and a 1 and a 2 and a 3.
We have this. This is not making the podcast. I'm fairly confident that this next part. We have 2 separate scoops of formula. Scoops when we're making Naya's bottles, and one is for 50 milliliters, meaning that 1 scoop of that makes 50 milliliters of milk, and there's a smaller one that you use, and the smaller one makes 20 milliliters of milk. And I remember, like Dad, like I feel like this would be a very Dad thing to do. When we first brought Naya home from the hospital and we decided that formula was going to be in the mix, I'm like, Seiko, every time you use one of these scoops, I need you to count it out loud so that we do not over mix the formula to water ratio so that she's not like overfeeding or whatever. And Seiko's like, or I can just count in my head. And I'm like,
no.
And so
Ryan, I do the same thing. You have to count out loud.
There. 1 scoop 20, 2 scoops 40. But we are a year into the game. I am still there. I'm like 50, 100, 150, 170. And Seiko's like, why are you still doing? She could just take a spoonful of that formula in her mouth with no water and she would be fine. And I'm like, I'm counting out loud.
Just in case. No, I do the same thing. I do it with like turning off appliances and stuff. I say it out loud because I can never remember. And if I say it out loud to myself, so I'm like, I am turning off my curling iron before I leave the house.
Let it be stated for the record. No one's listening.
And then I still leave it. I'm like, did I turn off the curling iron?
I do the same thing. I'm like, what number am I at? I know I'm counting milliliters. Wait, how many is 50?
It's a fail-proof. It's a fail-proof system, guys.
Have we talked about this? Have we talked about the book called The Checklist Manifesto on the podcast?
No.
So I read this book called The Checklist Manifesto, which is, wait for it, a book about checklists.
Wow, I would really like to read this book. Checklists are the way I function in my life.
It's actually fascinating. So they go through all of these like case studies of where checklists have been implemented and where they actually make a massive difference. And they actually talk a lot about aviation and why like all of those checklists, like they seem arbitrary, but they actually serve an incredible purpose in aviation, going through a very specific checklist. And I believe they also mention when you come to Japan to visit us, you will see, not in Okinawa because there's no train system like there is on the mainland, but if you go to a train station on the mainland, you'll see these people on the train platforms that work for the railways, and their job, like they're literally just like pointing down the platform and like finger tracing the tracks and stuff like that. But it talks about how like simply doing that drastically increases the safety of the train station and decreases the amount of accidents that happen. I don't know why we're talking about this. We were just talking about a beer drinking llama beer, beer drinking llama beer, beer drinking llama bear, and now we're talking about checklists and how they save the transit system, aviation checklists and how they save everything and everybody's lives. Just get a checklist is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's when I do checklists, I'm the queen of putting things in my phone as a checklist, but then there's no context. So later I go into it, I'm like, what am I supposed to remember? And a lot of times, do you ever find yourself backtracking, even like what you've been doing on your phone to try and remember the thing that you were supposed to remember?
Yes,
like
so
I'll be
yeah, I remember I was on Reddit. Okay, go back to Reddit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to go back to Reddit. What was I looking at? And like read one post like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. Yeah, I backtrack. It's like technological backtracking. And I feel like we're the only ones brave enough to talk about the hard topics.
No one else is out there doing this. There's not a single other podcast out there diving in the way that we're diving in right now.
Speaking of diving in, no, this has nothing to do with it. We're going to Disneyland tomorrow at 5:45 in the morning. So we've been furiously packing all day to try and get ready
making
for
checklists.
It.
You've been making checklists.
100% I have checklists.
And naming them in very similar ways to the last time you created a checklist doing the same thing. So that when you open up the notes app, you're like, which one is it? Which one of these is it?
Why don't I just make a master checklist? No, I'm going to make a different one every single time with different things. And so things have been a little crazy around the house. Our topic today, spoiler alert, does have to do with Disneyland. So I'm pretty excited to talk about it.
Checklist. We're going to talk about the brothers that invented the checklist.
It might have something to do with checklists. We can work it in there. It's fine. But I was thinking today about how Disneyland was not a thing that we did as kids, right? Like the first time I went to Disneyland, I was in probably my 30s. I want to say my kids were 5. My older kids were 5 and 8, and I became so overwhelmed by Disney overwhelmed in a negative way. I wasn't one of those people that's like saw the castle and started crying because I was so overwhelmed. Like I was so negatively I was so stressed all day. I had no idea what I was doing. Disneyland is such a over the top experience and is like music all the time. And there's so many people. And I went to go pay. We were getting an ice cream and I went to go pay. Justin had just given me his card and I went to go pay for the ice cream. And she said, I can't take this card because it's not your name on it. And instead of being like, instead of responding like a normal adult human being, I just immediately started crying. and like I was like, we are never coming back to this place. Like I hate it here. And now we probably go about 3 times a year and we have it down to like truly have it down to a science on how everything's going to go. And I can tell you exactly what we're going to be doing at 2:48 p.m. tomorrow based on like our track record. But I think part of it was like we'd had no exposure. Like Canada's Wonderland was the closest thing that we'd ever had to that level. And I mean, Disneyland's like 10 times as overwhelming as Canada's Wonderland.
So we do an episode. Like, hey, we do an episode about Go back, find the Canada's Wonderland episode, listen to it.
Please do. And I was thinking like, what was any of your have we talked about our most memorable like family vacations?
Yeah, we talked about it because we talked about going to Newfoundland and we talked about the wind blowing the orange vinyl. Right. But I have you were just talking about crying at Disneyland. There's this book that we read sometimes before bed here, and it's called, I believe it's called Everybody's the Same, Everybody's Different. It's a Sesame Street book. And there's this one page near the end because it starts like, our noses are the same. Our noses are different. They breathe and sniff and sneeze and whiff. And they go through this. It talks about how our hair is the same but different. Our skin is the same but different. And eventually works its way to feelings. And it says like, our feelings are the same. Our feelings are different. And it goes through all of the different feelings, like scared, excited, blah, 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 something delighted. But the picture of the emotions page, the feelings page, is like a fair, an amusement park, and it shows all these different scenes where people are experiencing different emotions. So there's someone who's really excited. There's someone who's scared. They're about to go into a haunted house. They're a little bit scared. There's 2 brothers fighting over a stuffed animal, which one of them I'm sure has just won at one of the fairground games. And there's a kid who's lost a balloon. It's floated out of his hands. And there's another kid who's dropped his ice cream. It's fallen off of his cone and it's melting on the ground. And when we get to that page, Noah always will try to solve all of the problems for all of the kids on the page. She'll pretend to pick the ice cream cone up and she'll put it back the ice cream and put it back in the cone. Or she'll pretend to have money and go buy an ice cream cone and bring it to that kid. Or she'll de-escalate the situation between the 2 brothers fighting over the stuffed animal. They'll be like, hey, who won this one? Okay, you take this one. Here's $1. You go and play the game and win your own stuffed animal. And I imagine a scene now where you are also on this page. And there's this grown woman who is crying uncontrollably at some type of vendor. And Noah looks at this, so confused on how to even help the situation. Because
Truly.
there's just a grown woman crying in front of a vendor with no
the happiest place on earth.
with no other visual indicator of what could possibly be wrong. Just holding a card, and there's a name on there that doesn't match her name, and she's just crying uncontrollably. And I just imagine Noah looking at me going, "Daddy, what's happening here?"
while her family is standing 3 feet away. First of all, Noah is a porter because she's a fixer of things. Number one. But the thing about, so I swore I'd never go back because I hated it so much. And then a kind friend took me under her wing, and she was truly, I said truly so many times already in this podcast, take out 90% of them.
No. I'm gonna add an echo to them. Truly, truly, truly.
She was like, is it wrong to say she was like my sensei of Disneyland? Is that culturally insensitive to say? You would know.
I don't think so. I think it's appreciative, if anything.
Okay. So she taught me like the ways of like how to do Disneyland properly. And now I'm very good. I am very good at Disneyland. It's like one of my talents is I know how to do Disneyland. But the problem with that is because I'm trying so hard to be good at it, it has put me in like some positions where I have done very dumb things because I'm trying to be like the best little Disneyland girl there ever was. Like I want the cast members to go home and be like, there was a woman today in my line and she did all the things right. And I have 2 great times that this has completely screwed me over. Once we were getting there's in Radiator Springs in Cars Land, there you get your food from giant pylons, cones, traffic cones.
Sorry?
That's the restaurants. The restaurants are in like giant traffic cones because it's Cars Land.
Sure. Yeah. I've never been to Disneyland, so you might as well be speaking.
I'm going to come to Disneyland Tokyo. Just wait for it. So
I will wait for you out the gates.
I went to the cone, and again, I mobile order everything. I would never just like wait in line and leave that to chance. Like our schedule is too tight. Like I know exactly what time it is. So I'm mobile order my food, and it sends you a text when it's time to pick up. I go to the cone to pick it up, and it's they do these like bread cones with mac and cheese, and they're so good. So because it's a cone, so you get it. There's
got it.
It's a theme park.
Explain that. I would have been left behind at that point in the podcast for the rest of this podcast.
The guy working in this giant cone hands me my cone, and there was a woman, because there's always a line for the people, for the suckers who order in the moment, and there's a line for the mobile order people who are smart, which is me. And so I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself as I jump the line in front of everybody else to get my mobile order. There's a woman standing right beside me. And so he hands me my cone and take my cone. And then he reaches his fist out to me, like his fist it's in a fist and palm facing down. And I didn't know what to do at the moment. I'd never seen this before at Disneyland. So I reached across and I fist bumped him. And he said in the flattest voice imaginable, "This is your change." And he opened his fist. The worst part is I didn't have any change. I mobile ordered. It was the woman next to me. So then the woman who had seen the whole thing then has to like slide the 4 quarters across the counter to herself. And I was just like, oh,
did she then fist bump you thinking this is the protocol now? She's like, wait, do we fist bump at Disneyland?
And then I said something like, I'll always take a fist bump, and then walked away. Like that saved it for some reason. And then
it actually just reset the awkwardness. When you say something after something awkward, it just now creates a new memory anchor for everybody and doubles down on the awkwardness.
I turn around. My family has watched this entire exchange, and they're just like, mouths agape. Like, what are you doing? Leave this poor man alone. Then there was another time my daughter and I had just gone by ourselves. Sometimes we'll just do like a little girls trip. And in Star Wars Land, they have this ride called Rise of the Resistance. And it's everybody's very in character. Like the people who are operating the rides are not just like next. They are like very much in character. And there's a part where they're like, the whole storyline is like, you're part of the resistance and you're getting caught and they're going to take you in for interrogation. And before that, these men who are yelling at you because they're in character, they tell you to go stand on a color. And that's the color when they call your color, then you can enter the interrogation room. And I'm a rule follower. I love to follow rules. That's my favorite thing in the whole world, is like being good at following rules. So when they tell me the color that I need to stand on, I'm like, I've got it. Don't you worry. actor pretending to be mean. Like, I will take care of this. And he had told me to stand on blue, but then I guess, I don't know if he changed. I don't know who was right, if it was me or not. I think I was the right one and I was standing on blue.
Let's poll the people in the room. Let's poll them.
Who do you think was right? And he was like, no, you were supposed to be on the green. And I became so flustered that it like took me out for the rest of the ride. And we go into this interrogation room, and there's also a part where you're standing in it's like this dark room, and a lightsaber comes through the wall and cuts a hole in the wall, and you watch it. It's like a laser, of course. It's not real, guys. It's just a laser.
I'm really glad, because I don't know which one of our listeners, which one of our three listeners would have been like, hold on.
A real laser? So, and I was so busy being like upset that I had not like gotten the rules right, that when the laser cut through, a cast member usually jumps through and is like, oh, good, you guys are here. Come on, we're going to get on the ride vehicle and get out of here. But I was standing the wrong way because I was so just like stressed out that when he burst through the door, he burst through and we touched mouths.
Did you guys kiss? Did you seal the resistance with a kiss?
I kissed a man. I kissed a cast member. He burst through when I was standing there. We hit faces. We bumped mouths. And then he became so flustered that he was completely out of character. And he was like, oh, okay. And so he started laughing. And all the people around us are laughing. And he's like, okay, come on, guys. We got to get out of here. And I was like, and Addie was like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you do any of this right? And I'm like,
was he waiting for you outside the gates afterwards, out of costume, being like, so we share a moment?
Like,
all right, Gordy, it wasn't a big deal for me.
Off the charts. So we're going to Disneyland tomorrow. I'm hoping for some more really awkward moments caused by myself, because I'm putting pressure on myself to be good at something that nobody cares if I'm good at or not.
Arbitrary situations.
And I'm like, here's my special button that says I'm the best at Disneyland, everybody.
I want your parents. Yeah, I want your parents. I don't want your parents to do anything. I don't want your parents to do anything. I want your family, your kids, to give you that button with just a blank under it. Like, I'm the best blank.
I'm celebrating. That's what they say. I'm celebrating. And you're supposed to write in like your birthday or whatever. Yeah, I'm celebrating.
Just for you.
Being the best at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And everybody can see it and know.
I've never been to Disneyland. I'm sure I will get dragged there eventually. Seiko is starting.
It's my dream to take Noah there. Like, truly my dream in life is to take Noah. Truly. Gosh, what is wrong with me?
Seiko has been dropping the hints like crazy. She's like, maybe we should go to Disneyland this summer. A big, like, because Seiko's friends, like one of her core friends groups back in Chiba, so just outside of Tokyo, they all have girls around the same age. Mm-hmm. And so they want to do like a big Disneyland trip this summer.
Oh, they're in prime princess age.
Yeah, but it's summer break, and summers here are also just like intolerably hot and humid. Mm-hmm. We're talking like 40 degrees and just 100% humidity, and like it would just be horrible. And so I told Seiko, like, maybe we should wait until the fall and then just go up for like a few days during a week when it's not like peak season, because I don't know if you've seen any of the like drone footage of all the people waiting.
It's insane. Yeah. Insane.
There is an account that I follow on Instagram. I'm not sure if she's on TikTok, but it's called the Tokyo Chapter. And it's this woman who's lived in Japan for a very long time. And she's also maybe a pro at Disneyland Tokyo that has
well, I'll be the judge of that.
So I'm thinking maybe you should send her either some tips or request some tips, because I'm guessing Tokyo Disneyland is a different thing, right? It's not going to be your regular, where you go right in Disneyland in the US, you're going to be going left in Disneyland in Japan. So making sure that you are like reoriented to whatever it is out here.
Oh, the amount of research I will have to do before I go is
I'm just seeing that she might be your sensei for.
Ooh, another sensei.
You can have two.
I can have two. So after all that, my question of the week is, what is something that you would never do again that you've done, and why?
Where do I start? Anything from 19 to 26, maybe?
It's off the table.
It's been stricken from the record. It's all been redacted in my personal history, just black chunks of what I wonder what he was doing. Holding my pee for an entire flight from Columbus, Ohio to Toronto.
I was hoping to get through one episode where you didn't talk about pee.
If you want to hear the details of that story, last episode we did talk about that. It seems pretty basic, and I don't know, like, there's a lot of things I think like that I like. Here's one. I think backpacking through a third world country with no research or itinerary at all, and just being very not ready. Just like, yeah, we could do that, right? So back in my mid-20s, strapped a backpack on and went through Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, also touched down in El Salvador across the entire thing. We landed
what possessed you to do that? It was with Dallin, correct?
Dallin came for the last little bit in Guatemala. And
what possessed you to do this trip? Because it doesn't sound like something that you would normally do. That I'm like, yeah, Ryan, he just loves to like hop on a plane and go to Guatemala.
Well, I think in my early to mid 20s, that was something that was really on brand for me. Like just being so like unpredictable. He's going somewhere that no one else would go because he's so special.
His orange personality.
Yeah. You guys are going to an all-inclusive in Dominican. I am on a chicken bus in Guatemala.
Not the chicken.
The whole trip centered around me getting my scuba diving license in Honduras. And I don't know. Have I told any stories from this? I think I told a story about Dallin and I doing this.
Yeah, I think bird's eye view of this weird trip you guys took.
So I started in Nicaragua by myself, did some backpacking, staying in these like hostels on beaches, and then like took this like boat across and stayed on this island, which is like just 2 volcanoes, and rode horses along the beaches. And Dallin and I camped on a volcano. We toasted marshmallows and hot dogs over a river of flowing lava on the side of
That's wild.
Volcano Pacaya. It melted my K-Way jacket. K-Way, that was the thing, right? The K-Way, is that what it was called?
Oh, what you're talking about.
The little, like, the raincoats. Hold on. Was it called a K-Way jacket? What? Yeah, it's a K-Way. It was a K-Way.
I'll believe you.
It was a K-Way rain. They used to, like, roll up into, like, a little pouch.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, it melted that because we were sitting so close. Like, Dal and I thought it would be so fun, like walking up this volcano. We're like, this is gonna be so much fun. But then what you don't realize is halfway up the volcano, you're walking on hardened lava, and the stream of the lava like changes like direction every few days, I guess. And so like you're walking on this like hardened lava, and you like, I'm sure there's a real word for it, like hardened magma or some kind of rock. Anyways, we're walking on, you can feel the heat coming from the lava because it's flowing lava underneath you. And then like there's cracks in the rocks that you're walking on, and you can see the orange glowing through it at nighttime. And so it started off like, this is gonna be so much fun. We got like halfway up and we're like, this is super sketchy. And there was a dog that we nicknamed Nipples following us the whole way.
Obviously.
Yeah. And so like we got up there and Dal and I were both like, this is so sketchy. And so we're like toasting the marshmallows, took a few pictures. We're like, quick, like, let's get out of here. Cause like
Nipples, let's go.
We are, I'll see if I've got photos on Instagram. I'll grab some and put them into the show notes. But like I was like 1 meter, like a yard away from flowing an actual river of lava.
How many ounces were you away?
I was 14 ounces away.
That sounds right.
So there were a couple sketchy things that happened during this trip that would probably make me want to add it to the list of things that I definitely wouldn't do. Hostels in general, I just wouldn't stay in a hostel again. Like I'm in my 40s. It's not happening because I have stories from hostels from different places in the world. But so 2 things that happened in particular that had me like, maybe never again. And I'll share one of the stories in this podcast, and I will put one in my pocket for a future podcast.
Put it on a checklist.
Put it on a checklist. Can one of the listeners put it on a checklist? I'm going to forget it. I'm going to rename it. But so I want to, the story that I'm going to save is one about me and Dallin, because I'm sure there's somewhere for him and I in Guatemala. But the story that I will share, and I don't know if I've shared in an episode before, this is going on far too long, but I arrived in Honduras the day, hours after a military coup had just taken place. So the military went into like the presidential palace, I guess, the presidential building, and took, I think it was President Zelaya at the time. They just like took him out and dropped him off on an island because he was trying to change, I believe, some of the constitutional things so that he could be president longer. And anyways, there's this big thing. I'm not 100% sure what was going on. Now, when I booked my flight from Nicaragua to Honduras, there was only one type of ticket left, and it was a first class ticket. And it was like $99. So please do not think that I'm out here just making it rain, first class.
Just balling out.
Yeah. So I arrive in the airport in Nicaragua. I happen to be sitting beside in the airport an American diplomat. And he's like, "You're going to Honduras?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Take a look on the flight. You'll probably be one of the non-diplomat, non-Honduran people on this flight." And I'm like, "Well, what's going on? I've been in hostels for the last couple of weeks." He's like, "This is what's going on." And he like gave me a crash course, and he's like, "Be careful. You might not even be able to make it out of the airport. So like whatever." And so we board the airplane, and I'm looking pretty homeless at this point. I've got a beard, I'm sunburned, I've got a backpack, I'm wearing a white tank top, and I sit in first class, and he's getting on, and he walks past me in first class, and he's like, "A backpacker in first class, like, must be nice to have that backpacker's budget." I'm like, "Bro, it's $99. Tell the American government to step up their game and get you right beside me." Anyways, we land in the airport. It is chaos. There's like, they're telling everybody, unless you are like Honduran, unless you have a Honduras passport, you are not leaving the airport, because there's chaos in the streets. There's military patrolling. There's like church groups that were like showing up on chartered flights thinking they're going there to just save the world. And they are in tears learning that they have to now charter a flight home. I was on a flight with a snake researcher. They were there to like research snakes, and they are now on a flight going back to Florida. So anyways, all this chaos is happening. And, I get lined up at the ticket, like the information ticket counter, whatever. And they're like, "Yeah, sir, you're going to have to get on a flight and head back to where you came from." Or I'm like, "I can't, like, I just came from I don't have any way to go back. My brother's meeting me in Nicaragua. This is just a stop. I'm going to get my scuba diving license. And on this island, it's not even on the mainland. Like, if I can just get to the coast, I can make it across." And she's like, "Not going to happen." And then this like light switch, this light switch, something went off in my brain. One of those electric things that said, "Wait, Ryan, you're a first class passenger. You need to speak up for yourself." And I kid you not, I like slammed my ticket down on the counter, and I was like, "I am a first class passenger. I am trying to make it to the coast where I will get a ferry tomorrow morning to go to Utila, like the island where I'll be getting my scuba diving license tomorrow. You need to make this happen." Like, what?
Wow.
She reached under the desk. I'm like, she's grabbing a gun.
Press the panic button.
I'm getting shot right now. And she goes, "I'm sorry, sir. Here's your meal." And she slid across a bag of Wendy's across the ticket counter. And she's like, "If you go wait over there with that group of people, they will get you on a microbus that will bring you to the coast tonight." And I'm like, "Thank you for understanding." And she's like, "I'm sorry, sir. Have a safe trip." And I'm like, "All right." So
I will, because I'm a white man.
Because I am a white first class passenger male. Anyway, so I took my Wendy's. I ate it while I was waiting for the microbus. I board this microbus with like all of these people from Honduras, and we drove to the coast. It was a few hours away, I think, if I remember correctly. I got a crash course on like history and like why all this craziness was happening. I got up the next morning, woke up, got on a boat, went to the island, partied, got my scuba diving license, and
no harm, no foul.
And then met Dallin in Guatemala. Yeah. So all of that to be said, for those of you who have made it this far, I might have to speed this story up by like 5x just to get us through it. I don't think I would do that type of backpacking trip ever again.
Like,
Hostels.
Those days are over.
They're not an option.
But would you say you're a first class passenger and demand special treatment again in the future?
Every time. Every time.
You know, if you got it, flaunt it.
The world that opens up, just slam it down on the counter. I am a first class passenger. Give me my Wendy's.
See, I would, because again, I'm a rule follower. Whatever they told me, I would do. No questions
You would be
asked.
on that
I'd be
charter
like,
with the snake researchers. You'd be like, so where are we
and
going?
I would be hoping that they went home to their families and said there was the nicest lady at the airport today.
In fact, I think she's still there.
She'll be there forever.
All right, your turn.
Other than not ever go to Disneyland again, which I clearly have done, so that doesn't count. Mine would definitely be get on a helicopter.
No.
Have you ever been on a helicopter?
No.
So we were in Hawaii one time, and of course we were with friends, and we were like, we should go on a helicopter. And we were on Kauai, so they do have, like the Jurassic Park tours, the waterfall that's actually in the beginning of Jurassic Park is there that they can fly you over. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I've never had a thought in my head about helicopters before. So we get on, and because the helicopters are weight balanced, the heaviest people have to go out on the edges. And I was the smallest. I don't want to brag. I am a small person. No, because I was the smallest, they put me next to the pilot. I was hanging Tom Cruise style off the rails. It was Mission Impossible. No, they put me right next to the pilot. And I was like, okay, this is fine. But instead of looking out the entire time, I just watched the instruments.
Yeah,
and I couldn't stop watching them. Yes, I am the co-pilot. I'm responsible for keeping us safe. And it's like you said, watching someone do checklists, but like he was real free and easy with things that he was doing.
He was searching through his notes app. He's like, which one do I use? They're all named the same. I don't know which one of these.
For a while, he had his phone out while we were like actively flying in a helicopter.
How to start a helicopter.
And sometimes he flew us really low. There's a crater on Kauai that if the weather is good, they can get you down into the crater. And he was like, you know what? The weather's pretty good. Let's try it. And I'm like, let's. And as he's flying, we're so close that all the instruments are lighting up red. And he's just like hitting the X buttons and like swiping them away. And
Dismiss.
I was like, I feel like these are really important. Like I couldn't stop questioning this man at his job. And the moment we touched ground, I was like, so I'm never going to do that again. Not to mention every time the news is on, they're like, a horrible helicopter crash happened every 5 minutes today. So I'm good. On my helicoptering days are over.
Yeah, and those are the ones that's never like, and miraculously everybody survived. That's why, like, no. There's no way.
Yeah, so I'm good on, I tried it. This last time I went to Hawaii, the kids wanted to do one, and I was like, you know what? You can go with Dad if you all die in a fiery crash. Like, I guess that's what's going to happen. I will be safely on the ground, though. I will not. I'm out.
That's what you said to your family. They're like, bye, Mom, love you. And you're like, if you all die, search you right.
And I will be there saying, I told you so. And I'll be so satisfied. Okay, are we ready to actually broach a topic about siblings today?
Yeah, we're 45 minutes into this. Might as well.
Okay. I want to start with a little word association game. If I say the name Roy, what do you think?
Uncle Roy? Roy Halladay?
Okay. And if I say the name
Roy Jones Jr.?
If I say the name Walt,
Royce the 5'9"?
Stop saying Roy names. Now, if I say the name Walt.
You kicked this game off. What else you want?
Okay, I didn't think you were going to take the game this seriously. Just one name is fine. I liked Uncle Roy. Let's stick with Uncle Roy. Now, if I say the name Walt, what do you associate that with?
Walt Disney?
Yeah, Walt Disney.
I feel like this was all this was definitely seeded.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing. But I do think if you said Walt, most people would say Disney afterwards. Well, no, they would not say Walt Whitman. And so I would like this podcast to be formally titled Justice for Roy, because Roy was Walt Disney's brother. And as someone who considers them kind of a Roy, I just feel like he's the unsung hero of the Disney company at large. And so I would like to talk about Roy and Walt and their dynamic together today.
All right, project for me, or project to me for a while.
As someone who feels like the Roy to your Walt, I would just like, listen carefully, okay? Listen carefully to what's happening today. Roy is born in 1893. He's 8 years older than Walt. Walt's born in 1901. There's a few other siblings, but we're not going to talk about them because
they don't matter. Similar to our family, where there are 5 of us, and you only hear from us 2 on this podcast.
So we don't have to hear about them. They were born in Chicago. but they spent most of their childhood in Kansas City. Roy is older, so he serves in the Navy during World War I, and he's in active service for 2 years, and he is diagnosed with tuberculosis, so he has to be discharged, and he remains pretty sick for his entire life. Actually, it's an infection of the lungs. In case I don't know anybody needs to know that.
I actually need to know that. So
okay, so it's an infection of the lungs. So it will weaken your lungs for life is something, and at that time, TB was also had kind of a social stigma about it because it was so contagious and such a dangerous disease.
Hold on. I'm making a list of the ways that you're like Roy. I want to add this to the.
Okay, so yeah,
weak and sickly.
Weak lungs and won't stop talking about how sickly they are. And here's how you're like Walt. Walt is living in Kansas City, and his dad buys him.
Just peas in a pod.
Just say, he buys him a paper route, and Walt. I think they had like 600 houses on the paper route at one point in time. Like this, he said he was a terrible student, but he never missed a day in 6 years. He did not miss a single day of delivering the newspaper, and that was what Walt did. Well, his brother was away. When he comes back, Roy moves to California. It's one of those things where they're like, the fresh sea air is going to make you feel better. So he's living in Southern California and tells Walt he should come out with him. Walt has started dabbling in animation in Kansas City, but he actually bankrupts a company. He signs onto a company, and his ideas are so crazy, and he's trying so much stuff that by the time he leaves Kansas City to move to SoCal, he has bankrupted the company that he has worked for.
The entire city.
And he's like, goodbye.
My work here is done.
So when he comes out to stay with Roy is encouraging him. He thinks Walt, he's like, you really got something, kid. He encourages him to start animating again. And in fact, Roy takes he receives a disability pension from the military of $200 a month, and he gives that to Walt to start his own animation company. Later, his parents also mortgaged their house, but I think it's cuter that Roy did his disability
Roy was
pension.
the first investor, similar to the way that you've always funded my dreams.
$200 at a time. And so the other thing is Roy, he's like, let's go into business together. Roy has trouble finding work because of his TB diagnosis. Again, there's like a stigma around it that he's weak and sickly. So he's like, it'd be great if we just worked together and I never had to look for a job again. So they begin what is called the Disney Brothers Company. Later, Roy actually encourages him to change it to the Walt Disney Company. Roy's like, you're the idea man. You got this. Like, I'll be working in the background. So this is going to be all about you, Walt. They first start with Alice in Wonderland. They do like a mixed format where it's kind of real life and then animation added in. And then they start doing these shorts. And the first short they start is, have you ever heard of Oswald the Rabbit?
I believe that I did know that, and I think I even showed it to Noah at one point because they asked,
cute.
Because I think Seiko and I were talking about what the true first animated Walt Disney thing was, and she was saying that it was Mickey, and I was like, no, I feel like there was something that like went before that, and then we ended up finding it online, and I showed it to Noah.
Yep. Oswald was the result of Walt and his creative partner. They created this rabbit, and because they needed more capital to keep doing things, they actually licensed him out to Universal Pictures to start. Universal liked the shorts, but as they started pumping out these animated shorts, Universal's kind of renegotiated on the deal and wanted them to take less money than they had originally negotiated. And so Walt was like, I'm out, basically. And Universal said, well, if you're out, we'll start our own animation company and we'll do it all in the back of Oswald, and like we'll do it without you, basically, unless you take this money. Walt was terrible at negotiation, and that's something that crops up again and again. If Roy wasn't in the room during the negotiations, Walt ends up literally like bankrupting, or he's like, fine, I'll start my own animation, and like every person who works for him is like, well, we're definitely going to stay here at Universal, which is what happens. They end up having to start a new animation company. Universal gets to keep Oswald, and they also keep all but one of their employees that was working on Oswald as well. They all go to work on Universal.
Wow.
So then that's when we start seeing Mickey. Mickey is created in 1928. His original name was Mortimer. That's something that I like to tell people when I'm at Disney, and I like to tell them facts while we're waiting in line. So
you're giving fist bumps to people trying to give you your change.
I'm like, fist bump. Like, did you know Mickey's originally a warmer? Anyway,
yes,
bye.
we know. You do this every time you're here.
So Steamboat Willie, you've probably seen it. It's the beginning of every Disney movie has Steamboat Willie. That was the first like post-production movie with sound, that where the sound was added in after the fact. And that's when they really, like, Roy and Walt were like, okay, we have something here, because that was not available. It was doing the silent movies where the person was playing the music live, but nothing that was added post-production. So they start doing these Mickey shorts. They do Mickey shorts for 10 years. And Roy's like, awesome, let's just do this for the rest of our lives. Let's be as safe as possible. And Walt Disney's like, no, I have more ideas. So in 1937, he brings the idea to Roy to do a full-length feature film of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And they were like, it can't be done. The animators were like, we can animate 6 minutes. We cannot animate an hour and a half. Like, you're insane. Not only that, Walt told Roy it was going to cost $250,000. That was the original cost, and Roy was in charge of raising the funds for this. And
I like this dynamic duo. Walt's like, I've got an idea. My job is to be crazy. Your job is to go out and
find the money so I can be crazy. So it ends up costing $1.5 million to make Snow White. So little over budget. It ends up making $8 million. So it's a success. And to this day, it is the highest grossing animated film if you adjust for inflation at $2.2 billion.
That is wild.
And that obviously includes
terrible. Can't even.
Not my favorite.
I cannot make it through 6 minutes. I can't make it through 6 seconds of it. It's so bad. Like, look at the fidelity.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
It is so low fidelity. I can't even. No, it's terrible.
But I mean, it was truly breaking barriers at the time. And for Roy to have to go out and be like, shut up. And Roy to have to go out and talk to investors, like, we have this great idea. We're going to make an hour and a half animated film. And they're like, what are you talking about? And so they got it done. They got it made. It was a huge success. So now they're in the game of making these longer animated feature films.
Because I have
10 years.
Because I have the benefit of living in the year 2025, I love to play this game. Like, imagine if you just dropped somebody from that time period in the current day, and just like, I want to see it. I don't want to see a movie about it. I want to see the genuine confusion, like, just like to see somebody go from like trying to pitch this, like, the best we can do is 6 minutes of solid animation, and now you like you like type something into a box and it makes a full length feature film with sound effects, and you don't have to touch a single pen or pencil or piece of paper. Like, I just want to see. Okay, we have done this many times on this podcast where we come up with the greatest plots for movies. We are gifting you another one right now. It is about Roy and Walt Disney being dropped into the year 2025 with their knowledge of their world, and they're trying to raise funds for the most terrible movie ever made, Snow White.
Oh, like womp womp.
It's like Elf. It's like the movie Elf, but the Walt Disney version, and they don't drink maple syrup.
Yes, and also just to see, I would love to see what Roy and Walt think of like what Disney has become, I guess. I was talking about this with my friend who does my nails. She's like, I'm not a Disney fan, I'm a Disneyland fan. Like, she's like, I literally don't care what Disney does in the entertainment space. She's like, I just want to go and like eat my snacks and ride rides. Like, that's what I'm in for. And I was like, yeah, I get that. And I think if the Disney brothers could see what Disney has become, I think they'd love some things about it and some things they would absolutely hate about it. Like the way that they bilk us out of money every time I go to visit Disneyland.
That's what they would hate. The fact that they're printing money left, right, and center. Roy is like, cha-ching, cha-ching. Like, that's not something that they would hate. They would be delighted that they are the
One thing
richest
Disney
people.
knows how to do really well is they're like, hey, come to Disneyland. It's great. But if you want to pay a little bit more money, we'd give you a little bit more special experience. And I'm like,
you can kiss people. You can kiss people.
And I'm like, did you say special experience? Do I get to make out with a person on Rise of the Resistance? And then they make it so visible too. Like when you go, there's a regular line for regular people, and there's another line for if you have the special Lightning Lane passes.
Special people this way.
You get to walk by as you walk in front of them to show them like, hey, everybody, sorry, VIP coming through. And like, that's part of what I like about Disney. Does that make me a bad person?
No, I think that's, but yeah, actually.
I mean, I think it goes back to us wanting to be real special. Yeah, and I was like, how much money do I have to spend for me to be special here?
Yeah, the fact that you can put a price tag on it too just makes the process that much easier, right? The other thing I think they would be disappointed with was the way that all of their most recent movies are ending. I feel like, because Noah is now 6, we're doing a lot of Disney-ish stuff. She wants to see all the new movies. And I feel like they all end the exact same way with like, it's just about like the main character is in some type of situation. It's all about to boil over. They're about to be killed or captured or whatever. And then the town just starts humming some theme song, and then they all start singing in unison. And that brings some spirit or something else out to defeat the thing that they are fighting against. I feel like that's how the last 3 or 4 major Disney movies have ended. And I don't think Roy or Walt in particular, would have been up in arms.
Pretty mad about it. That, and I hate how every Disney plot line is like someone is supposed to take over their dad's job, and they're like, I don't want to take over my dad's job. I want to do my own thing. And when you're aware of that trope, when you see it, it makes me so angry when I'm watching a Disney movie and it's all about like, this kid is supposed to take over their dad's job, but they don't want to. And I'm like, well, I feel like there could be more here, but anyway, well, I've got some notes.
Yeah. If only we get the whole town to hum a theme song and help them realize that this has been their life calling. And that's not talking about Pixar. By the way, that's not talking about Pixar. Pixar is a different thing.
Leave Pixar out of this. Pixar out of this.
We're talking about Disney core.
I feel like they'd also be really annoyed by the existence of live action versions of all of their movies. Like, they worked so hard to do animated movies, and Disney's like, no, we're going to do the exact same shot for shot with CGI instead.
Yeah, I think they'd be heartbroken.
So 10 years after Snow White in 1950, Walt approaches Roy about his next great idea, and it's going to be a theme park. We're not far after World War II. They're just getting their feet back under them after the war. And Roy is like, yeah, no, this is not a viable idea. And Walt, of course, because he's Walt, pushes and pushes. Roy knows how much money it's going to cost, especially because Walt's original idea was to just build it next to their existing studios. And Roy was like, we're going to probably need a little more space for this. So we also need to buy land. So Roy has a really interesting idea. They need a lot of money. They need, let me see what they started with 4.5 million. And that was like their starting point, is that we need 4.5 million to get this going. And his idea is to actually turn to TV studios, which has never really been done before. Movie studios working with TV studios. And he shopped this around to NBC, CBS, and finally ABC okayed it. But that they would license all Disney properties to that television station, that they could show their movies and shorts on that TV, and that they would also produce like a weekly building of Disneyland show that people could watch, that they could tune in every week and like see the process and see the development of Disneyland.
Like a little BTS feature.
A little BTS, first BTS. Actually, I watched a series of documentaries called How Disney Built America in preparation for this. And it's got a lot of dramatizations, which I like, because there's a Walt and there's a Roy acting this all out. But yeah, Roy has this idea, goes to ABC. ABC's like, okay, we'll give you the $4.5 million in exchange for 34.5% of Disneyland. So that, to this day, ABC does own part of Disneyland. And that's why you had, like, remember when we were kids and you watched like The Wonderful World of Disney on ABC? Yes. Like that was the only time we would see some Disney movies. And that was because of this deal that Roy brokered.
And it was Fantasia every time. And you're like, oh man.
Fantasia. Now I'm like, yeah, I'd watch Fantasia again. Roy also tells Walt, like, you need outside help on where to place this. So they actually go to the Stanford Research Institute to find like the ideal placement for this park. They need, like, the ability to get there from other cities in California. They need the space. They need all of this. And so they end up in Anaheim, which literally there's nothing in Anaheim but Disneyland. That's the only reason it exists.
Ooh, Anaheim catching strays.
Anaheim listeners, sorry. They maxed out their budget within a few months. They hit 4.5 by July 1954.
By the end of the parking lot. They're like, we got a parking lot.
They double that amount by September of that year, and they hit 11 million by November.
Wow.
The final cost of Disneyland is 17 million. So they went over budget again. That's kind of a theme in Disney lore.
And almost the first one was 3 to 4x, and we're about 3 to 4x on this one as well. So we've got the formula. All right.
Yeah. And so like as they're running out of money, Roy also has the idea to lease space in the park to different restaurants and stores and stuff like that. And that's how he keeps funding like all of Walt's ideas and that kind of thing. Like Roy's always in there trying to figure things out, trying to clean up messes and trying to invest. What's the word for it? When you ask for money.
Fundraising?
Fundraise. There we go. Gosh. Okay. Cut that out. I sound like an idiot.
Because it's usually me. I'm like, it's salmonella.
Salmonella. What was it? What was the one that you said that was backwards?
I said salmonella instead of semolina.
Okay. So that's how they kind of keep it running. When they finally open, I love this. So again, Roy's kind of a serious dude. He doesn't get too crazy. He's just kind of in the background. But I read this piece from his biography about his first day on Disneyland's opening day in 1955. He and his wife Edna had encountered significant traffic on their drive to Anaheim from Los Angeles, which Roy naturally assumed was a positive sign. After arriving in their reserved parking spot, the couple sat drinking coffee from a thermos and eating cake packed by Edna. They did not even, they packed their own lunches. They're so cute. And watched excited children and families headed towards the park entrance. At one point, a Disney employee ran up to Roy and nervously exclaimed, "Mr. Disney, I'm glad I found you. A lot of these people have been stuck in traffic for hours, and the kids need to go to the bathroom. Now they're peeing all over the lot." Roy replied with a smile, "God bless them. Let them pee."
Why didn't we use that last week? We had a great pee episode last week, and not once. You were just sitting on that knowing this was in the hopper for the next episode.
I read that. I was just like, what a sweetie man who's just like, you know what? Nothing's going to rain on this parade.
Nothing's going to rain on this parade. There was an episode way back when where we talked about tattoos, and I said I don't have any tattoos, mainly because I like going to Japanese hot springs.
Okay, got it.
I like going to Japanese hot springs, and you can't have tattoos. And you said if you did get a tattoo, what would it be? Mm-hmm. That's the phrase I want tattooed. Just
God bless them, let them pee.
God bless them, let them pee. So let's go back. I want to revise that. That's what I want for my tattoo.
If I didn't love Roy enough during this entire research process like that, I was like, I love you, Roy Disney. You are the Disney of my heart. Walt is nothing to me. Later, the brothers worked together on opening Disney World in Orlando, but Walt passes away during the construction. So Roy was actually the person who completed the construction on Disney World, and that's why it's called Walt Disney World. Roy specifically asked that it was named in honor of his brother and everything that they did together. The last thing I have is Walt talking about his brother, Roy. He said, "I was fortunate. I had a big brother, and he's still with me, and I still love him, and I argue with him. Sometimes I think he's the stubbornest so-and-so I ever met in my life, but I don't know what I'd do without him." And I was like, you guys, you boys.
You know what I really like about this one? It's about two brothers coming together. Mm-hmm. They balance each other out. They do something remarkable together. Because even though I was joking around about how crappy that first film was, they really did go on to do some incredible things and build this empire, which of course has just done exponentially I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's grown exponentially or exponential to their original vision.
It's like a cultural monolith. Like there's no way to like properly explain how much Disney matters to global culture.
Yeah, and the fact that like it is one of those things that could unite any person from any country almost in the world, right? That it's just like, it's one of those things that overlaps. It's there with McDonald's and Coca-Cola, right? Like I think those three things, which are also probably connected. We could probably do an episode about how those three things are connected, but like Disney, Coke, and McDonald's are the three things that probably
like
connect.
We've all experienced that.
Yeah. And the fact that it started with these two brothers, that it didn't end a lot of the way that a lot of our episodes have ended, where it's like, and they killed each other, or one of them went to jail for trying to murder the other person, or they turned to crime. It was that they stuck it out, they recognized their differences, they figured it out, what worked for them, and they actually did some pretty cool things as brothers. Like that part is truly inspiring.
When you go to Disneyland, there's a giant statue of Walt holding Mickey's hand. It's very everything. It's like, oh, there's Walt Disney's apartment that he stayed in or whatever. I'd never heard of Roy until I started looking into this, and I was like, first of all, I love Roy more than any person I've ever heard of in my life. Also, Roy, Walt had a nephew who was also named Roy that he only introduces my idiot nephew, Roy. So when you're researching them, if it's talking about Roy that he likes, that's his brother. If he says my idiot nephew, Roy, that's talking about his idiot nephew, Roy. He's different. But
I like the distinction. Can we start distinguishing family members that way?
my idiot brother. No, because none of us have the same name, sadly. Yeah, we can still say my idiot brother. In Disney World in Orlando, there is a statue of Roy with Minnie, I believe.
Is it in the shadow? Is it in the shadow of Walt? And it's really small.
I feel like I really know Roy after this, and I'm like, I think Roy doesn't mind that much. Like, I think he really liked having Walt kind of be the face of the company, and he was kind of happy just working in the background and like making things happen. And he wasn't really interested. And I was like, how would that be? How would that be to be a person who's like, I don't want the spotlight. I will be over here if you need me.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic here, because I think in your brain you have it painted somehow like a really terrible early 1900s animation film that you're like in the background just like supporting the family, being quiet at family dinners, not like what?
I think it's
where's the parallel? Anybody who's ever listened to a single episode of this podcast is not like, Jacqueline's right, she's the Roy.
I'm the Roy of the family. Actually, Jonathan's the Roy of the family, let's be honest. But
what has he done to support anybody? He definitely doesn't listen to this podcast. In the back. He's not listening to this podcast. I know that. Every time I'm on a call with him and I'm like, oh, I know, I already told the story last week on the podcast. He's like, I haven't made it all the way through. I'm like, have you even started it?
One episode.
Yeah, he's still on the Plantagenets.
Which you still can't say properly. No. There is like a long-running joke in our family that you are mom's favorite, and I still stand by that. I do feel like you're mom and dad's favorite. So as like, how does it feel to be the Walt of the family is what I'm asking.
I have earned the top spot. Nobody has publicly put the Porter name out there more than me. Nobody has built more decks, fences, pulled more weeds, done more power washing, lawn mowing. I was the dependable neighborhood kid. Mom and dad were one of two customers. The other customer was Annie Gale. I had a business built on the back of our family. I am definitely the Walt Disney of this Disney family.
That's Walt behavior.
And I have earned it. I am the dreamer. I am the doer.
And I'm the person here making your dreams come true. I think we can establish that.
Yeah, you give me a platform.
I do feel like you've had lots of ideas in the past, and we're real idea people in our family. The follow through doesn't always happen.
Because we don't have a Roy. That's why this family does not have a Roy who's like, all right, let's dial it down. This is how you actually launch that fashion brand that you've been designing sketches for, sketching clothing for the past 2 decades.
There's been lots of times, like, I think people often say like, oh, you should never work with your family or whatever. We've worked together lots of times in the past. I would say in the past 20 years, we've done various projects together or looped each other in on like ideas, a lot of brainstorming sessions, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, obviously the Disneys can show us like, you can work with family. It's totally fine. Just one of you has to be the clear Walt of the situation.
I agree. Or it has to be so financially successful that like you couldn't mess it up. Do you know what I mean? Like you just don't even
have that problem.
You just don't even need to look at it. Like this podcast. Like this podcast is such a raging success that it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter to me. Yes, we're recognized on the streets. We don't live in the same country. It's fine. You're recognized there. I'm recognized here. And so when you have something that's as successful as this, I think it kind of like lowers the jealousy factor. And it makes it easier to just not even look at that part of these things that are as successful as this.
Last week, I was at a baby shower for my friend's daughter, and we were eating, and my friend was there. And then this girl that I don't know was sitting with us as well. We were just, making small talk. And my friend said, "Oh, I just started the podcast." And I was like, "Oh, did you get the part where Ryan almost peed his pants at a airplane?" And she's like, "I just finished." And the other girl
was like, unsubscribed. And I'm just letting you know I found it very offensive.
I was like, wait until you get to the slam poetry part. But the girl beside me, who I didn't know, was like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" And I was just like, "Yeah." Did I tell her Did I tell her anything about it? Did I promote us in any way? That's Roy behavior. I don't need her to know. You will take care of that for me.
I love that. Now contrast this with a conversation that I had with some people out here who I ran into some friends, and they were like, "Ryan, what do you do?" I'm like, what do you mean? What do I do? They're like, "Yeah, we see you like posting stuff on Instagram sometimes. Like, do you have a podcast?" I'm like, "Do I have a?" "Well, you've seen it, haven't you?" "I have a." They're like, "But like, what do you do? Like, how do you? So like, what's your job?" And I'm like, "What? Well, I do this other thing." They're like, "So what's the podcast?" I'm like, "It's just me and my sister talk and record it." And they're like, "Oh, okay." They didn't say anything about listening to it. They didn't say anything, "Oh, that's nice," or "Where can I find it?" There was zero interest.
That's all we needed to know about it. That's all we need.
I'm like, I'm glad you didn't listen, because that interest, you would be like me.
Very uncomfortable.
You would be like me with those early Walt Disney classic animations where I'm like, I can't even keep my attention. It's so boring.
3 minutes, I'm out. I don't want to do this.
So I spared them the letdown, very similar to the way that you did that for the guest at the shower. Where
I don't know what to say about it. I'm like, me and my brother just talk and we record what we're talking about. I'm like, it's not about anything, really. We just talk.
Then we release it so we can listen to it multiple times.
And laugh. I was walking my dog, and I was up in like a canyon near, and there's nobody around up here. And when it got to the part about you rap battling a sick child, I was laughing out loud to myself, like while wandering up this canyon. It's so funny. That'll be one of my favorites. And I didn't know that. I didn't sometimes the stories on here genuinely surprise me. Some of them I'm like, okay, well, we're going into one of the greatest hits. I've heard this before. That one, I've never heard that before, because rightly so, you keep it deep inside of you.
It's not something I lead with. When they're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I used to battle rap."
Now I have a podcast.
It's essentially the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Two people I don't know talking about things I don't care about.
Wait, do you remember for a while, I had one of your raps. I want to die. One of your raps is my ringtone. It was my ringtone. It was my ringtone on my phone in I want to say 2005.
There was a point in my career where I was at a real fork in the road.
Your rap career.
I was in a real fork in the road where I was like, do I go this route of trying to establish myself as a well-respected youth public speaker, author, published author, or do I become a gangster rapper? Which one of these? So I dabbled. I hit the stew a few times, recorded a few tracks.
And as a supportive player in your life, I supported you by
making
it as the Roy in your life. I made it my ringtone for probably a good 3 months in 2005.
The amount of sweating that I do on this podcast when things are that I just almost forgot about, or have at least pushed aside for a future therapy session. I'm always wondering too in those sessions, like when do I reveal this part about myself? Where I'm like,
it's on your checklist. It's on your checklist of weird things about yourself that you need to bring up in therapy. You're like, is now the right time?
Yeah, I used to rap. Like, I'm sorry, what?
Speaking of things that I need to bring up in therapy, I had my nails done in my favorite ride themed for Disneyland, and I spent $100 to do this. They are Jungle Cruise nails.
I see two black nails. I see one that looks like an American flag.
They're green. There's a tiny snake because there's snakes on Jungle Cruise, and there's a JC. There's a JC on it. But also my initials are JC, so I feel like it's okay. Do you know that this has nothing to do with anything. There are gangs, there's Disneyland gangs, and they have jackets, and they hang out around their ride, and that's their turf, and they will have turf wars about no, we're Big Thunder Mountain
as dance
Railroad
battles?
gang.
Is it or are they actual fist fights?
There was a real problem. I listened to a podcast about it actually because it became a real problem for Disneyland because people felt like they couldn't freely move throughout the park because the gangs had claimed their turf around certain
by peeing on things.
by peeing on
full
things.
Circle.
Roy asked them to. He said, "God bless them. God bless them." And God bless you, listeners, for listening to this. Okay. We need to wrap it up with the problem is we had too many unhinged texts this week.
I feel like these last 2 weeks, there were quite a few threads where I'm like, is this going to be, after it was all done, I'm like, this might be the one.
And then the next day on something else unhinged happened. And I was like, and we're back.
And there's a couple things that I haven't mentioned specifically because I was like, maybe this is going to be the unhinged text. And so if we don't talk about it, I will put it on my list of things to talk about in the next episode.
I think this is what I'm nominating as most unhinged. It's you messaged the sibling thread and it said, "I'm at Noah's art class today." A little girl just walked in with an actual fish in a Ziploc bag. Dead. She just wants it to hang out with her today. The art class has nothing to do with the fish. She was painting, then just looked up at the teacher and in Japanese said, "I think it's dead. It's been out of the water and in a Ziploc bag for hours." And then you sent us a picture of a dead fish in a Ziploc bag. And it just says, "A fish!" with 2 exclamation points. And that was a wild ride.
I will put that in the show notes. So I'm sitting there. There's there's 8 kids in the art class, and there's 3 or 4 parents that come from out of town. So we just stay there for the art class, and other parents just drop their kids off and then they roll out because they live nearby. And so the mom dropped off this one kid, and I hear her talking really quiet to one of the teachers. She's like, and then the teacher was not following the protocol. She went, "A fish?" And I was like, and that got my attention. I was looking at my phone. I was like, what are we talking about? And so I looked over and I saw the Ziploc bag with I don't know, a 4-inch, a perch. It looked like a perch of something.
Yeah. I'd say perch.
Just a 4-inch fish in a Ziploc bag. And I'm like, surely this is not a real fish. And I went back to my phone. I was like, that's me typing on my non-existent keyboard on my phone. And then later on in the art class, they were introducing some things about the class. And they were like, so-and-so even brought a fish. And I was like, and so I turned to the mom beside me and I was like, in Japanese, I'm like, is that a real fish? And she looked down, talked even quieter. She's like, yeah, it looks like it's a real fish. And I was like, and all I said in Japanese is like, that's interesting. He immediately started texting everybody. I'm like, get this.
There's a dead fish in a bag.
And the reason I love this is because I imagine the conversation before art class between that kid and the mom and
the battle
to where the kid won. What? At what point are you like, fine, you can bring the fish?
You know what? I think as parents, we've all been at a point where we would let our child bring a dead fish in a Ziploc bag if it meant they'd leave the house and get going. If you put on your shoes, you can bring whatever you want in a Ziploc bag. I literally don't care.
If we're out of the door in 30 seconds, you can bring the dead fish. But even the putting it in a Ziploc bag and trying to be like, look, don't put this anywhere obvious. Because I saw
right on the
On the desk, but I saw the mom like moved the the washing buckets, the paintbrush washing buckets to like block the fish from the view of other kids. But she moved it as soon as the mom left, so they was just on full display.
The way that kids would be so interested in someone having a dead fish in a bag, like you can't stop that.
I could not wait to come home. I didn't even text Seiko the part of the story where the girl was like, I think it's dead. Like just in the middle. There's nothing.
Did you think it was alive until then?
I don't know if she was like just holding out, hoping for the best. There was also no water in the Ziploc bag. So like there's not even like, it could have been
like a goldfish in a bag. That's what I thought when you
the air was pressed out.
I thought it was like vacuum sealed.
Vacuum sealed.
Like she's about to take this on a flight in her little bag, and it's okay because there's no water. They'll send it right through TSA.
There's no liquids. There are no liquids in this whatsoever. This is my fish. But yeah, just the whole thing was absolutely hilarious to me. I love stuff like that and I also couldn't talk about it with Noah on the drive home. I just said, hey, did you see that fish that the girl brought? And Noah went, yeah. And I was like, okay, so there's nothing weird about this whatsoever to kids. But as soon as I got home and Noah was out of like earshot, I'm like, Seiko.
I would love that.
And so that's what
and
we
I
go
did.
with.
When you sent it to me, I did. I was like, this is exactly what this sibling thread is for. I don't want to have a normal conversation in here. I only want pictures of dead fish in Ziploc bags forever.
They put it on their Instagram, like on the Art Academy Instagram. There's a shot where everyone's just there, like painting their pictures, and you just see the dead fish on, like, just above her painting. At first, I thought it was like a fishing lure. I'm like, is that a fishing lure?
Have you seen? There's like a crafty, an old fashioned, like from like the 80s, like an old craft show. And this woman is doing fish prints, and where she paints a dead fish and then like presses it onto like a tea towel or an apron.
I really need to I need you to be specific. Is she putting paint on a dead fish and then pressing
she takes a dead fish, paints it like different colors. She even did like a little ombre moment.
No.
She's like, oh, we'll start with me. And then flips it over and presses it like a stamp on whatever she's working on, like pulls it out. She did with like bath towels. So there was like, and then she's like, and after that, you can have a delicious fish dinner. After you, I will see if I can find it. I'll put it in the show notes.
And maybe that's where this all started. Maybe.
Like, did she want to make a fish stencil?
Maybe she saw that and was like, but mom, I'm telling you, I can use it with my painting. And that's how this whole thing started. But the result was a dead fish in a Ziploc bag at the art class. And you know what? I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? God bless her. God bless her.
God bless him.
That's my new catchphrase for everything.
All right. Well, you know how I end these episodes with some phrase of like, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed.
That's why we keep doing it. We're a year in. We're still doing it. It's because we enjoyed it.
And we missed our chance. This one going out, as long as the audio doesn't fail, this will be episode 27.
Wow. I'm impressed. Look at us.
If this podcast was a human being and the episodes represented years, it would now be thinking about leaving its parents' house.
It would be thinking about backpacking through Guatemala.
You know what I should do right now with this money?
With this money.
All right. Well, we'll run it back in 2 weeks where I'm sure we will bless the listeners with more hard-hitting content, fact-based research, and hilarious stories of dead fish and peeing.
I'm gonna go find a person to kiss at Disneyland. So,
and you know what the goal for this is? For the next 27 episodes, by the time we hit 54, I want both of us to be proud enough about this podcast so that when we are at a baby shower,
you're asking a lot.
Someone asks, do you have a podcast? We say yes, and you can find it at DryerDrive.com.
Oh boy. We would have to do an enormous amount of personal growth in the next year.
We got 27 episodes. That'll give us like a year and change. Let's do it.
Okay.
Stretch goals.
The goal is to stop talking about peeing. Be proud of this podcast. Got it.
Put it on a checklist.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
See you in 2 weeks.
Goodbye.
Bye.